I'm going to call to order the City of Laredo Fine Arts and Culture Commission for this date, March 24th, 22nd. It's approximately 5:40, and we are gathered here. I'll commence by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will you do us the favor of...
Rosa?
Yes, ma'am.
Julio Mendez? Armando Lopez?
Present.
Carlos Abraham Flores? Rosy Santos?
Present.
Robert Lopez? Absent. Gail Aker Rodriguez? Absent. Jesse Shaw? Absent. Dr. Martha Villarreal? Absent. Dr. Colin Campbell? Present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to move now to Roman numeral 4, which is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments?
No, none have come in.
All right. We're going to move next to the minutes, the reading and the approval of minutes of the meeting of February 17th, 2022. You have those minutes before you. If you've had a chance to review them, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
A motion that we approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Any corrections or clarifications? A call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Okay. Section 6, communications and announcements. I think do we have any announcements from staff? I know that Rosie had an announcement about this.
Yeah, I just passed along some invites for our next exhibit for Ethel Shipton. It's called Los Dos Laredos y Más. So I hope you all can make it to the opening. And then the following day, there's an artist talk from 3 to 4.
I commented to Rosie that that's a very familiar road sign because before age 35, usually people took that road. And when I was in law school, at the end of my first semester in 1979, I only had enough money to get a bus ticket to Ensenada. My dad picked me up at that little garage, which is where the Greyhound used to stop. So it brought back instant memories. Hopefully you can attend.
I remember the taquitos in Delhi.
Yeah. The Garcias. The other announcement, and I think Julio's on the board of LTGI. I'm gratefully participating.
Yeah, we have an opening or a play that's going to take place on the 31st to the 3rd, and then the following week we're going to have it. I can't remember what the dates are, but the following week we will have it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It is a play by Nino Cruz,
yes.
and it's called Anna in the Tropics. It is a very interesting play. It's a one-act play. We have a member of the board, Mr. Lopez, who is going to be participating. He's one of the main characters in the play itself. So we hope that you all can make it. Same thing as our commissioners. I hope that they can also participate of that. And also at the Laredo Center for the Arts right now, we have a very good show who got acclaimed by, what was the magazine?
Glass Tire.
Huh?
Glass Tire.
Glass Tire, who is a magazine that publishes about art in Texas. And that show was qualified as the 5th most important show in Texas. So those that have missed it are missing a great show. Not only that, but the understanding that we are an entity of the arts and culture. And I think that should be taken into consideration.
And we have a closing reception for that exhibit on April 1st.
And on the up-and-coming artists, the Nixon one-act play qualified for, they're only Laredo school to qualify for the area round, and they compete on April 1st in Far San Juan. So the young artists are coming out.
And that's encouraging to see that we are growing in the arts, not only in visual arts, but in other areas of the arts too. and pretty soon, this summer, we will probably have a play, which will entail of having students not only on stage, but also playing the music. And so it's encouraging to see that all these things are happening. We were stopped by 2 years of pandemic, but it's coming strong, very, very strong. And that should happen.
Any other communications? Moving now to staff reports, section 7 of our agenda. It's the update on the Laredo Public Arts Master Plan.
This is, it is gonna do a presentation. You do have a hard copy of it in your packet.
Angie, I'm not able to share my screen. It's
Let me-
deactivated.
Let me see, I think I have it open. Yes, it's there. Okay.
Okay. You can move to the next page.
The next one.
The one before that.
And she's like, I know.
That's a lot.
I'm going to let that, before we start, I would like to let the record reflect that one of our commissioners, members, Gail Rodriguez, has arrived and is now present, so that we can put it in the minutes.
Thank you.
Well, it's good to see all of you from afar, and I'm happy to hear all of the art happenings that y'all have there. It sounds like things are moving along great. I had taken the month of February off, had some personal time, and so now I'm back in the swing of things. And this presentation, I'll talk about the next steps for the public art program overall, and then some next steps that the commission can take as well. And I will try not to be too lengthy because I know you guys want to get on there. So the first thing that we're doing is we're sending out a survey to council members to get their preferences on projects for this fiscal year 21-22. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I don't have a copy of the survey here, but I'll talk to some of the things that we're going to be surveying them on. Another next step is to work on a public art program manager hire. I know that Eileen's working on that. It may take a little while still, but it is in the works. And then we also will be developing the budget for this current fiscal year 2021 to 2022. And of course, we have the CIP funds locked in. We'll start looking at some of these other sources in the survey to the council members. That's one of the things that I'm asking is, are they supportive of some of these other sources of city funding for public art? And so we'll see what they say and see if we can maybe use that as leverage to go to the city to try to get more funding for public art. And then in number 4, that's about finalizing. In the master plan, there was a section 3.7 about the CIP and the process for integrating public art. And so we need to finalize that and make sure that engineering is okay with all of those details. Engineering and any other departments that need to overview that. And then we'll also be finalizing the artist selection process with input from staff and from you all as well. So that'll be in the, I'd say in the next couple of months we'll start looking at that. Next page. And then we'll also be developing projects with the funds that are remaining from the fiscal year 2021. Those are a little older, but they're still, I don't know, last time I looked at it, I think it was still like 50% of the funds are still there. So we'll definitely be talking to the council members about those. And then we'll be finalizing the annual public art plan both for this fiscal year and then a plan for the next fiscal year. I believe you all already approved the one for this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I think you have. Yes? Okay, yeah. And so we'll just need city council to approve the one for this year, and the next year, the one for next year we'll be working on. And in this and we'll be working on fiscal year 21 and 22. And city council hasn't approved any of them, so they'll be, we'll be going through that process as well. And then we will start, we'll start planning for the CIP for fiscal year, the next fiscal year, 22-23. We're already a little behind on that, so we're gonna be playing catch up so that we can meet our schedule, and then everything with the next fiscal year will start, with all the correct processes. There's also gonna be an update to the ordinance. Irene already has that in the works. It sounds like, all of the suggestions from the master plan are being considered for that update to the ordinance. And then we need your help to start making a list of potential candidates for artist selection panels. So if you have anyone that you want to nominate, or anyone that you think might be good to have on the selection panels, reach out to Eileen or myself and let us know so that we can start making a list of potential candidates for that. Because I'm hoping that we'll have some artist open calls pretty soon. And then we'll also work on finalizing the inventory database so that you all can review and comment and give us any updates or suggestions to that as well. Next slide. So I just wanted, this was in the master plan, I just wanted to show this to you again. This was the plan for fiscal year 21 to 2022, and this was how we were planning on allocating the funds. But since we're 6 months into the fiscal year, I'm not sure we're going to have time to do that whole process of, looking at the CIP budget, talking to the council members, getting it all done, because normally, that's parts of the previous year planning. So if you go to the next slide, another question that I'm proposing to the council members is for this current fiscal year 21-22, do the council members want us to just use that, the slide before and divide the money up that way? Or, do we want to divide it up equally again with the council districts, but with the understanding that they're using that funding on actual CIP projects? Or do they want to maybe look at starting up the mini murals program or repeat the traffic boxes? Maybe something like each district gets 10, and that would allow for 90 new public art opportunities in the city. Also 90 neighborhoods would get, a traffic box. So that's something that we're going to propose. Another option, and we'll ask them to rank these in order of preference, so that if they don't agree, still the most popular ones will be, kind of what we consider. And then we're also proposing as an option a mural festival where each council district gets 1 to 2 large-scale murals. More murals in each district can be funded from private donations, so that's something that could be citywide initiative. Or we could create a Laredo icon sculpture that could be installed like in a park or a library within each district. So the House in Houston are an example, and Galveston they have turtles and they have bears. So finding an icon for Laredo, and then each sculpture in each district painted by a different artist. The letters, those are very popular in Mexico and a lot of other cities we've seen. Another option is a creative crosswalk project in each district. And finally, we have another option of we could pull all the money together and create one big gateway project, underpass painting and lighting. That's usually a popular thing, but maybe it could also be a sculptural element, something monumental. So there are quite a bit of choices that we're putting out there. Also giving them the option, of course, to submit their own idea. But we'll see kind of where they're at for this year's funds. And of course, if you all have any ideas of anything else we can include in there, I'm happy to take any suggestions from you all as well for them to consider for this school year. You don't have to answer me right now, but if you want to email me or Eileen, then I'm happy to take any comments or any suggestions from you all.
In the San Antonio, on the bus system, and in New York on the subway systems, they have little snippets of poetry at the bus stops and on the top portions of the bus where they usually put advertising. And I think that I think that's relatively inexpensive, and there's a lot of poets in this town from all different genres in English and in Spanish, Tex-Mex. So they might consider something like that to to be able to put those on the public transportation and on the bus stop areas. I think that would be a way to include a written word.
Are those on the actual bus stops or on the buses themselves?
Both ways. Some of our fellow brother and sister slam poets routinely post photographs of, a little haiku or snippets of their poems, both at the, where they have some of the areas of like, I think I call it the advertising niche. And then the same thing, they reserve one or two per bus, and they put them up there. And in New York, they're on the subway in the same areas on top.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll definitely add that there. That reminded me of the imprinted sidewalks with the imprinted poetry
Yes.
as well. So that's another one that I could add as well.
Sure.
That is also fairly low cost. And, you could do an open call for poetry, or something like that. I know the city of St. Paul, Minnesota, they've done like 1,000 of them, and they do annually or biannually a call for poetry, and it's from like anybody. It doesn't have to be someone who's a professional poet, like any person, young or old, can submit, and that's how they do it. And they get like over 1,000, over 1,000 entries every 2 years, and it's really popular. So I think that'd be a good program too. I'll add both of those to the list.
Thank you.
One thing to consider also, and this is something that was basically started by Mr. Townsend, was to have a youth orchestra. And what was done was that different students from whatever school they were at could actually participate, and consequently you have a philharmonic type of unit by young people, whether it is from middle school and through high school, that would be able to perform for the citizens of Laredo, whether it is at this, whatever it might be, the Civic Center in the future, or even in any kind of facility that lends itself to it. I think that would be a good investment that the city should take into consideration. It's something that works in many different states and in many different countries, to be able to get the youth to be able to appreciate music, and also for the people who are going to go listen to appreciate music. Right now, we don't have a philharmonic.
We don't have a conductor.
And the support and everything else, but at that time, actually, the ones that were doing most of the training were the Mrs. Bailly and I think somebody else. So I think that if we could get an instructor to lend the work and maybe get some remuneration from the city, I think it would be something spectacular to have. So I don't know if
That's allowed in this.
if the city would consider that, but I think that it's another area that is missed in most of these things. And I think that it needs to be paid attention also by the city.
I have a question. On the next steps public art program, proposed budget allocation. Okay, so we know that 8 city council districts took $20,000 from that 300, right?
No,
That's a
160,000.
proposal.
We're proposing.
Oh, this is a proposal.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we're not talking about how they divvied up the previous funds.
No, I think when they divvied it up previously for the fiscal year 20 to 21.
Oh, okay.
And then we each got about, I think it was about 40,000.
Right, and then to put their money so that you could be here with us.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. Okay, so this is a proposal for the monies for 21, 22. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that was what was in the master plan for 21, 22. But since we're already halfway through the year, that's why I put together this alternative list of projects. Like if they want to do, if the council members say, let's follow that, then we'll go that route. But if they say, hey, you know, we've got less time because we're already 6 months pretty much into the year, so if we want to do another project that might be faster to do, like the murals or the icon sculpture or, you know, any of these things that we're talking about,
Okay.
then maybe that's the way to go for 21, 22, and then 22, 23, we start with all of the processes and everything from the actual master plan.
Okay. And the citywide budget is coming from where? From that money?
Which slide are you on?
Oh, that one, 45,000, 15,000, 80,000. The one right before the one that's up. That comes from that same funding, 300,000?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So those three items at the bottom, I'm trying to recall from my memory on the slide, but, or Andrew, can you go up to that slide?
I'm sorry, I was just reading through.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, okay, so 160 for the council members, and then 140 for citywide public art projects, and then that 140 is broken down in that line item below.
Okay,
The 45, 15, and 80 make up the 140.
okay,
So there would be like one major civic art project with an $80,000 budget, and then we'd have some money in there for conservation, and then some to go towards the program administration, you know, public art program manager.
okay,
And
so
then
this is what we want to
the-
propose to them? Is this what we want to propose to them? Okay,
Mhm. For 22, yeah.
Yeah.
It says 21, 22,
right,
because that's what was, what we originally proposed for
Right.
this year. But, you know, like I said, since we're already so far into the year,
right,
it might be better to do another project that's, you know, easier to coordinate.
right,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And since those budgets, like 20,000 isn't a whole lot, that's why I think for the first couple of years, we probably do need to focus on this type of scale projects, these smaller scale projects, because with, you know, $20,000, you can only do so much, right?
Right.
And so hopefully in future years that budget grows, especially if there's other funding sources involved, so that larger scale kind of projects can be done in future years.
Any other questions?
Does that mean that then those funds are frozen until this thing is approved by the city council?
Yes. Except not the, well, there was one project that, we let just go through their own process because it had already been approved previously, and we didn't wanna, you know, we didn't really wanna, ruffle any feathers. And, you know, because I didn't want the council members to say, oh, well, we already approved it, why do we have to go through this process? So we just said, you know what, go ahead and finish that project. But going forward, any new projects, you know, should follow the plan as much as possible.
Which is the project? That was.
That, I don't know.
You don't know?
Staff might-
It's a mural that had already, I think it was Councilmember Rodriguez
For, on the clinic?
on the claim. It's a mural that had already, had previously, before we went to council with the presentation of the master plan, council had already approved the project, so,
I think he's using his funding from the previous year.
from the previous year.
He never touched it before, so.
Okay.
And is there any indication that if they wanna, they have additional discretionary funds,
Sure.
which we have found them to use on art projects, are those gonna be, I mean, it'll be their choice, but are those gonna be funneled through if they use their own individual discretionary funds channeled to this so that we can have like the master plan, I guess, you know?
No, I don't think so unless they.
Well, I mean, there is,
So-
the process is in the master plan, so.
So they would have to follow it, that's what I'm trying to say. If they decide to use something from their own discretionary funds, they would have to follow this process.
And that was one of the questions that the council members made, and going forward, and we'll let you know when we go to council with the amendments of the ordinance based on the master plan, but that's part of the reason why we're looking to get the amendments in.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that we can apply everything that's in the master plan to the ordinance and get started with the projects.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to definitely get started on projects sooner rather than later, right? To start issuing open calls for artists so that there's movement, you know, and once those processes start, then you guys, as a commission will probably monthly be voting on things and looking documents over for open calls, for which CIP projects are gonna get done, you know, all of that stuff. So I think that you guys will start having more to do in, you know, in the next, hopefully in the next couple of months.
And remember that this is a portion of the public arts master plan. So there's also the potential, or if we want to move forward with other projects, that there might be other funding like the youth orchestra. And that's something that former city manager had already mentioned that would be an interesting project to have. We can either look for other funding, or in the upcoming fiscal year, maybe we start putting money away for a cultural master plan
Right.
that encompasses everything else that is not included in the public arts master plan.
Yeah, the good thing about
Yeah,
the youth orchestra is that they have their instruments already. So the city doesn't have to invest money in that. All that we need is the approval from the schools themselves, for the students to utilize them outside the school, but they take them outside the school so they can use them anytime they want. So that will minimize the cost. The only thing would be try to reward whoever is going to be taking care. You know, give them a stipend of some sort so that they don't feel that they're doing this, you know, out of the goodness of their heart. I mean,
Yeah.
they do it out of the goodness of their heart, but also the money is good. So that should be a.
And are there any of the COVID funds that the federal government has released that are targeted? I remember we had talked about it at the Center for the Arts, about some of it being targeted for the arts.
I can go back and check. Right now, there's some EDA funding. They added some funding for like tourism and other areas that they hadn't touched in the past. So I can definitely go back and check.
It would be good to find a way to utilize some of that. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
Just to address what Julio said about the youth orchestra, you know, with the CIP funds, those types of projects aren't allowable, but like Eileen said, you know, other funding, you know, if it comes from the general fund or hot funds or, you know, basically any other funding source from the city, then it's fine. But it's just with CIP funds, that's where it's a little more tricky for those types
Sure.
of, you know, they need to be projects that are more permanent in nature.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much for your presentation and keep on working.
Oh,
And
Oh,
we should have-
So this is also from the grant, right? This is for fiscal year 2022, 2023. This is where we should be in the process, like we should already have done these first few things in the month. But we're just now starting some of these things. So we are a little behind on the planning for 22 to 23, but we definitely will catch up and get that going. But I just wanted to show that for illustration purposes. You can go to the next slide. So that just continues. These are all the tasks by month in order to get that 22 to 23 budget in order. The plan in order. Next slide. That's just a filler picture. So the next section just talked about next steps for Fine Arts and Culture Commission. What I did was I took some of the recommendations, not all of them, but I took some of the ones that were in the plan that I thought would be easily digestible for today's meeting. So you all do still need to, you don't have a vision statement or bylaws that are up to date. It seems that it is standard practice for the commissions in Laredo to have this documentation. So we do need you all to, work that process and I think that probably someone who can facilitate. I don't know that much about, how to write vision statements and all of that. So that's I think the city has provided somebody in the past to help you guys work through that. That's something that should be done this year. Another thing that's mentioned in the plan is, your relationship with the council member who appointed you. going forward, you should be reporting to the council member, maybe it's just a quick email to say, you know, just had a meeting, we've got an update, you should be expecting a survey, you know, this month or next month, from a art studio or from staff, you know, just to let the council members know what's going on. And then once a quarter, you all should be meeting with them, you know, face to face or on Zoom or something like that, so that they can always know what's going on. And that way, whenever, you know, public art comes up, you know, in a council meeting, then they already at least are somewhat informed on what's going on, and hopefully there's not as many surprises. Next slide. So this one is about, you know, you guys don't make quorum all the time. You definitely have people, commissioners that are missing, you know, pretty much every month. And so we recommend that a public art subcommittee should be formed. That way, if you don't meet quorum, then you can still advance business related to public art. I know we had talked about it previously, and we had, you know, there were a few people, I think maybe Julio, Rosie, maybe it was Armando, I don't remember, I think there was 4 of y'all. And if y'all still want to be on the subcommittee, I think that that's something that we should finalize. I don't know if we need to make it like official in some way, but that's definitely, we want to be able to make sure that we do have people who are present so that we can advance things every month. Because like I said, pretty soon it is going to get to the point where y'all are going to be reviewing open calls and, you know, plans for projects and all that kind of stuff. So we do need to make sure that, you know, there's enough presence to make those decisions. Next slide. This one is about professional development and training for artists. So as a commission, it would be great if you all could also maybe think about hosting talks or professional development workshops for artists. These could be maybe, you know, having an artist come in and talk about a public art project that they successfully implemented. You know, they can talk about what they did to make that project successful. Or maybe it's a workshop on how to apply for a grant. Or I went to the workshop once about grant writing, and after that, I pretty much have gotten every grant ever since I attended that workshop. Before that, I wasn't getting them, you know, and so really just learning what it is, you know, that you need to do in order to satisfy the criteria the grants you're usually looking for. Next slide. That's more, I think, in the ordinance. We will address potentially a commission name change to just the Cultural Arts Commission rather than the Fine Arts and Culture, because the Fine Arts, with that term, it's a little more academic and it seems to exclude self-taught artists and musicians and theater and all of that. So we think just dropping the Fine Arts and just making it the Cultural Arts Commission is more reflective of your body and what you all do. And I think that that's recommended in the ordinance change as well. Another thing that you all could do is research available grants for public art in Laredo. I think maybe you all have done that in the past, or some of you have. But that would be a good special project for you all. I think that it would, we need to find out if you all as a commission are able to raise money or take donations yourselves. So we're going to figure that piece out. But, you know, as part of that, you could also work with private entities to advance public art activities that are not projects of the city specifically. So I know that y'all really only have oversight over city funding, but if there was private funding involved, then you all could have more of a say in the projects, you know, in the artist selection. We'd still want to do selection panels, but I think there would be more for you to, you know, to do really, if there was some private, you know, private money as well. And then the last bullet, I can't read, I don't know what it is. Oh, and I just wanted to check with you all if, you know, you feel like you need another training on what the role, duties, and powers are. I know I don't think everyone was there last time we did that. But, you know, all of the information is in the plan, but if you all feel that, you know, maybe another training is needed, then I'm happy to do that. Maybe come in person. That might be a little better than doing it online. But that's really up to you guys. And I think that's all I have for today.
I would suggest that when all this process is completed, that we have a handbook, so that if a commissioner is replaced or leaves his term, her term, that person can come in and have that booklet, instead of having to go look up the ordinance online or whatever.
I thought that it was mentioned, or it does say in the Arts and Culture Commission that we could acquire funding from private parties or something. I could have sworn there was something like that in there.
I thought
We
I
talked
read
about
that
it
too.
maybe. I'm not sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I went back and looked at it today, and I did see language in there about private funding.
Okay,
But I couldn't, I wasn't really clear
right.
if you all would have the decision-making authority with that, because that's really what I'm trying to get at, is so that you all have some decision-making authority as well, instead of just the oversight.
Right.
But I'm not 100% sure, so we might need to check with legal to see how it's interpreted.
Right.
I think the discussion that we've had is that the city usually prefers that it go into the general fund and then they allocate it from there, that it not be earmarked.
But like if there was somebody who said, okay, I want to donate money for an art piece in Laredo or for something like that, like how does that work out? So,
I have a meeting, I just got the email confirmation from legal to meet on the changes of the ordinance, so
Okay.
I'll raise that question.
Because usually when people, yes, I think the issue always is, does it go to the general fund and can it be earmarked?
right.
Is always the question.
If it's a donation, it should have, and the rules for donations have changed for the city in the last couple of years. So I'll make sure that that's also in the questions asked to legal.
Any other questions?
I just, maybe just more of a comment, that this document focuses a lot on visual art.
Because
At the
that's what it was. That's what it
okay,
started
because-
out as, yes.
Yeah. Just bring
They
back
have
the music versus
Yeah, they
public
allocated
art.
the funds strictly for visual art. The
Okay.
2% was allocated strictly for visual
For
art
visual
from
art.
the beginning.
Yeah.
And we had discussed from the very beginning when we started meeting with this commission, that we would love to have like musical festivals and dance festivals and all kinds of things that weren't included, but when we started, we thought it would be all encompassing. And then when they allocated those funds, it was strictly visual
Yeah,
arts.
and it is because it is CIP funding.
Right, that's why.
It has to be something permanent.
Right.
In
So-
other cities, that they do it to their Parks and Recreation department.
Right, so
Yes, they have
we're trying to
musical
figure out a
fairs
way with Edia's help to get other things involved
Involved,
yeah.
Yeah, so-
in however other
Um,
ways we can.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, so obviously this document is sort of probably gonna expand in the future in terms of.
Yeah, that's what
bringing the
she
lyrics.
was just saying, that hopefully
That we bring in the other.
we can make the vision of this organization
Mhm.
to encompass other types of culture. And then we know the CIP funds are strictly for visual arts,
Visual arts.
but we can find ways to encompass other things with her help and maybe the vision of this group, so.
And there's other types of funding like hotel occupancy tax, like
Yeah.
general fund,
Right,
like discretionary
right.
funds that might be used in other ways.
Right, right.
The CAP are specific to this, but there are other types of funding that can be used.
Like, I think the discretionary funds of each commissioner or city council person is up to them. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't say, I want a music festival, I want a student orchestra to play in my district at this place. Approach them about, it, right? So, yeah.
Will there be a master plan for music and things of that nature? or-
Cultural, she mentioned that,
Yeah.
cultural master
Yeah.
plan.
And that would be a recommendation from the commission, so that then we can go to council and say,
Right.
this is a recommendation, and get funding for
Right.
for it.
Yeah, I want to say that I think that's a better way around to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and add part of our job to have cultural things as well as just the art. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like everything, South by Southwest. People go not because there is artwork on the buildings, they go because there is music, because there is all different kinds of cultural things that they will enjoy and that they're willing to pay to go see. So it's
It's a
just-
package.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't mean that culture is just
Right.
visual arts.
Mhm.
or
Uh,
music.
If you had, areas that you're going to be able to have, dancing, and you're gonna have folklore, and you're gonna have, et cetera, you are going to get more tourists to come in and
Sure.
try to look at them than if you don't.
Exactly.
It's
Absolutely.
just.
Now,
Yeah.
how long would it take to
That's cultural.
Yes.
to assemble a plan like that? Like, for instance, this plan has taken years to assemble.
Well, I
right?
think she's on top of it, right?
No, I'm not saying
I don't
no.
think it's-
I'm just saying it's taken many years to
I
assemble.
think that's what she's saying. The next steps for the Fine Arts and Culture Commission is to broaden our vision and to be accepted by the city council, right? To say, okay, yes, we know about the 2% funding CIP funds, but this commission also would have other avenues of blah, blah, blah. So I think Elia's gonna help us work on that. When we
Yeah,
get our
I think it's
vision
important
and all of
to
that, yeah.
Try to, definitely finalize, or not finalize, but, find what are other streams of, revenue, not revenue, but, funding
Yeah.
the cities will allow for these other cultural, for music, dance, theater, all of them, they all deserve the spotlight, not
Exactly.
just public art. But, unfortunately with this plan, that's what the scope
Right,
was just for
right.
the public art.
So-
But yeah, I think Laredo is so full of culture, and a lot of it is centered around music, and
Right.
I know it's important to the city, so we do need to find a way to unlock that funding.
Well,
I think that another thing that is important is to see if the commissioners would like to have a retreat with us in order for us to be able to discuss with them some of the things that we have, because when we go to the city to present what you're presenting, there's too much distraction to be able
Yeah.
to do it. And I think that we need to sit down with them and be able to explain what our vision is of what the culture is supposed to be. I know that we're working right now on this one, and it's fantastic, but they need to look out in the future, not just necessarily what is happening right now. In politics, everything is pulled by a donkey instead of being pulled by a truck. So consequently, it takes months to be able for them to be able to do what they are going to do supposedly at the end. And there's a lot of discussion that takes place that is really unnecessary.
I agree.
And I think that unless our city council is supposed to actually pull forward, we're gonna be sitting here discussing one little item without being able to be productive into the facilities that we are supposed to be doing, which is arts and culture.
But I
That's
think
my.
the steps that she put for the Fine Arts and Culture Commission, that we have to have a vision statement and the bylaws, and then that we have to meet with our council members and have a discussion with them, one-on-one, and then if we all come back and we have like a powwow, our group, and say, okay, well, my council person said this about blah, blah, and then we have like kind of a meeting, then maybe we could have a sit down with the whole group. But it would probably be more productive to meet one-on-one with our council members and get their input on what they feel like they want for their area of the city. So that's kind of what, I think this is great homework for us to get started on, and it'll evolve into that, like you're saying, Julio, maybe a whole, sit-down meeting with the whole group, and hopefully they won't get into arguments and fight, but,
Also, if music is important, then once we get the ball rolling and we start the open calls, it could be part of the process that it could be an interactive public art piece that integrates music.
yeah.
That way it'll kill those two birds with one stone and it could be part of, to
Right.
challenge some of our artists. I mean, it
Yes.
could be a sensory experience that's interactive and it's public art and
Yeah.
it hits everything that we all want.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas that we can come up with to sneak other things in.
Yeah.
There's the notion of that we had in the 70s, where Canto al Pueblo, where they would have a festival and they invite poets, musicians,
Right.
painters, ceramic artists, and on and on and on, and have one big artistic
Yeah.
festival. And that's the way everybody could get behind one project.
Yeah, like if the council members, let's just say, go for like the idea of a mural festival, that could be the CIP portion, but any other funds that are raised can go towards, other activations as well. So if you become more of a cultural festival than just a mural festival.
Right.
It's definitely, one idea of how to, approach it.
But is there an actual plan, a culture plan that's gonna be developed or not?
Yes, that's what she said.
Okay.
That's what we're working
Yeah.
on.
That's what we're gonna
We gotta cement this
That would
one
have to-
first.
No, I understand, just.
Do that,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
If you all can,
Hell, yeah, get busy, you're not
No.
getting it out.
We need to see the planner of the plan.
Poor thing, she's trying to get us
She
organized here.
She cut off the, there we go.
Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Okay.
So once we start the open calls, will there be like an inventory listing of all the prospective places?
Yes, there's an inventory of all the potential projects that are included in the CIP.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
mean,
that
that,
calls
if we get
for
that, it
specific
might help us meet
projects.
with our own council
Yeah,
person.
I think that's an important thing that we should
Yeah,
have.
because once we know where these locations are
Right.
at, then we can start maybe matching some ideas that we have that, and then, yeah, just matching like.
yeah.
I don't know if anybody's been to the Heights lately.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
I assume that that's the councilman's discretionary funds, that they closed several intersections and they put up a sign at the beginning of the Heights on
Mhm.
Park Boulevard and at the end of that Heights area, and they planted, metal cactuses, very vibrant colors, and put white rock down, and then the signs light up and says the Heights, and it tells you what year that neighborhood started, and it's very nice. And they're actually making sidewalks now, starting from that area. So I'm assuming those are his discretionary funds. Who is that? Alberto
Torres.
Torres, yeah. Who's the representative of the Heights?
It's a combination of Merck and.
No, but for Alberto, for Albert.
Oh, who's
the
his
representative
district
here? I don't remember.
Who's the commissioner for council member?
There's not-
District 4.
Four. I'm for number 2, even though I live in 6.
It's Marta Villarreal.
Marta, and then
Okay.
the other one, Merck is on the other one, so it's you, yeah, so that's kind of cool. They're bringing art into our, I live in that neighborhood, that's why I see it every day, but I think that's awesome that, they,
Beautification.
they're beautifying parts of Clark Boulevard, so.
Can CDBG funds be part of CIP or no? Like federal housing funds?
They can be, not CIP, but just their own separate
Right.
funds.
Okay.
They could be able to incorporate public art into their projects. Eileen mentioned that they're having, I think it was Eileen.
No, it
mentioned
was,
that they're having-
you recall the Narvaez, Marta Narvaez apartments?
Yes,
That was CDBG, and they included that in the renovation, the
Oh,
mural,
okay.
that, I don't remember the young man's.
I don't know.
Castillon.
Castillon, yes.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, when I met with CDBG department, they said no, that, okay, couldn't be used that way, but I'm like, a lot of other cities use the CDBG funds, so it's possible.
Yeah, I think just educating them on how they can use it, because they get a lot of funds yearly,
Yeah.
federal funds.
Mhm.
It was very nice. Great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for the hard work.
Well, and y'all, please feel free to email me any, thoughts, suggestions, anything that y'all have on any of those topics. I'm collecting data.
Okay.
We sure will.
Want to incorporate, happy to include in the projects list, or just any comments that you have. I'm happy to hear.
Look how pretty the flowers are right behind her. On the,
And the background?
yeah,
On the bridge?
yeah, under
Yeah.
the bridge.
Oh, under the bridge, yeah.
It's like flowers, right, Ella?
Flowers, yeah. And then along the path is a little playscape for the kids.
Yeah,
It's like hopscotch. That's on a trail.
uh-huh. But I love that under the bridge. You see, we could do stuff like that. Very nice.
Okay, moving on now to Roman numerals 8, items for discussion and possible action. I think the only thing we have scheduled there is the scheduling of the next meeting, agenda, date, and place and time.
That would be April 21st is the next scheduled meeting.
Do I hear a motion to reconvene on that day?
We all move.
I'll second.
Okay. There was a motion by, is it Julio?
I'll just do the motion.
Okay.
Carlos.
I'll second this.
Second by Julio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
You didn't hear a motion.
Huh?
You got the motion.
Gail moved,
I
and
moved.
who second?
I'll second.
No, Alan second. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And I don't know if I called for the question on the other one, but on the April 21st, all those in favor?
We did.
Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.